Hello Summoners and welcome to another ProGuides video. My name is Christoph and in this video we're going to be talking about things you need to do to win your lane. We're separating this one into 3 parts: tips for when you're stronger than your opponent, when you're weaker than your opponent, and a final tip for every single game. Feel free to leave any feedback or comments in the section below. We're always reading them. But before we get started, make sure to go to ProGuides.com if you want to see huge improvements to your rank right now. With our Pro Pass, you get exclusive Pro courses, and we also have a feature called InstaPro, which gives you unlimited 24/7 on-demand coaching from the best of the best. Over 100,000 gamers have used InstaPro today and ranked up significantly, so don't miss this opportunity and rank up now using the link below. Alright, let's get started. So the first tip is for when you're stronger than your opponent. When you are stronger, you'll want to pressure every minion. Whenever you're stronger than your opponent, you should never be letting them farm for free. Pressure them and trade damage onto them every single time they try and farm. This is a fundamental step to building leads. By pressuring your opponent when they farm, you'll either gain CS leads because they forfeit farm, or you'll gain XP advantages by knocking them out of lane. Against greedy opponents or ones that don't fully understand their limits, you can find windows to look for solo kills as well. Another thing to consider when you're stronger than your opponent is to deep ward off of roam timers so you can continue to play aggressively. A highly underused tactic is deep warding. After crashing big waves, use the time window you create to walk into the enemy jungle and deep ward. By deep warding, you'll be able to spot the enemy jungler earlier so you can allow waves to bounce back to you and prevent the enemy jungler from finding successful ganks. Vision is really important to dominate your lane. Sure, you can play aggressively and find victories as a result of it, but strong vision control allows you to do so without taking any risks. By getting strong vision control, you can continue to play hyper-aggressively and give your opponents a hard time while simultaneously making it impossible for the enemy team to punish you. The final thing you should be doing when you're stronger than your opponent is counter-jungling. When you have complete control over your lane, don't be afraid to steal jungle camps away from your opponent. Just make sure that it's safe to do so. For bot laners, this usually means taking the outer turret first and then stealing Krugs. Mid laners have an easier time stealing away raptors while their opponents are farming a wave under turret. Even if you can't successfully steal a camp, you'll put yourself in positions to get some great wards and also pressure the enemy jungler. Forcing them to use Smite can waste crucial seconds and also takes away an important cooldown from them as well. If you find the enemy jungler farming camps, you can also look for opportunities to deal damage to them. Getting them low makes it more difficult for them to gank and sometimes even farm the rest of their jungle. So the next section is when you're weaker than your opponent, what should you do? Well, firstly, you should identify your power spikes, both items and levels. In nearly every matchup, there is some point where you can win a fight. This can come down to a variety of factors such as levels, items, and the way fights are played out. By getting plenty of experience on a champion, you'll get better at recognizing these factors. You need to avoid trading when your opponents are stronger than you, and fight when you can poke for free or if you have a minion wave advantage. Your goal is to bide your time until you hit those power spikes, and then look for opportunities to play aggressively off of them. As a jungler, what this means is adjusting your pathing. If you know your opponent is stronger than you until a later point in the game, take early vision and predict the enemy jungler's pathing off of that. You can then clear through your jungle, pathing to avoid them, and then scale up. If you can identify when you're stronger, you can switch gears and play more aggressively once you're ready to fight them head on. The next thing you should consider when you're weaker than your opponent is to not follow roams. The biggest reason why you shouldn't follow roams is that you won't have strong enough vision since your opponent has had pressure on you the whole time. Trying to follow an enemy who's stronger than you when the map is dark is extremely dangerous. It's always possible that your opponent is fake roaming and trying to bait you into walking towards them. In the case that they do commit to roaming, you following them makes the fight still less than favorable. While you may be even in numbers, you're still weaker than your counterpart. It's simply not a high percentage play, and you can instead shove your lane and try to take a turret plating or deep ward. Doing this helps you create some sort of lead and potentially hit those power spikes that'll enable you to fight your opponent. A good understanding of wave management and priority is very important for this concept. If you guys are interested in understanding a little bit more about that, then please use the description link below where you'll have a bunch of resources from pro players like Nightblue talking about the importance of priority. The next section is for tips in any lane during any game. And the first one we'll be going over is using the minion wave advantages to create pressure. Most players are always trying to trade with you. They're playing to win and usually try to trade damage assuming they're stronger based on matchups. In even matchups and some losing ones, you can always use the minion waves to give you an advantage. Big waves make it difficult for your opponents to trade back any damage at all. You can aggress onto your foes, and if they want to trade back, they'll be met with some unpleasant damage from your minion wave. A single favorable trade can give you enough health advantage that you can take lane priority as a result. This is because you'll get your opponents low enough that an all-in fight would result in you solo killing them. After a great trade, you can begin pressuring them as if it's a winning matchup, because at that point, it basically is. The next tip in this section is don't undervalue your sustain. Recalling is a gift, in essence. You never really know when you'll have a good opportunity to take a reset, so anything from extra potions to an extra rejuvenation bead or a fairy charm in your inventory can go a long way. Sustain really does add up. You can trade evenly, then regenerate health and come out ahead from the trade. We've talked about this a lot in many of the other videos, but lane priority is partially affected by how safe you are and how much health you have. Health advantages are a simple way of having more pressure and dominating your lane. Another tip in this section is recall when the next wave is a cannon wave. After finding leads in lane, you need to spend your gold. One great trick you can use is to recall when the next wave is a cannon wave. Cannon minions are harder for your opponents to clear, so you can recall and return to lane with minimal losses. Taking advantage of something as minimal as this will help you create bigger gold and experience leads. Next up, practice optimal recalling. Similar to our last point, what's important is being efficient whenever you recall. Especially when taking turret plates, players tend to get pretty greedy. When you get turret plates low and your minions finish them off while you recall, this will save you time and you'll still get the gold. Sometimes it's better to recall earlier for a tempo advantage. This means that you'll have to know when to give up these plates or take one instead of greeding for two. The next tip we have for you guys is give your opponents a hard time when they're trying to recall. Whenever it's safe to, you'll always want to give your enemies a hard time. There's many reasons your opponents would want to recall, and they're probably similar to your own, especially when the minion wave is pushing into you. Stopping an enemy recall is huge. Delaying their reset allows you to deny more and more minions while losing practically nothing. A lot of players are greedy with their recalls and don't back up far enough. If you know where the enemy is recalling, go ahead and be a bully. They'll hate you for it, but at the end of the day, you're making the smart play and taking the best course of action to win. And the final tip we have for you guys is to draw pressure and then avoid dying. By effectively using all of these other tips, you're going to become an issue for the enemy team. It's inevitable that in some games, they're just going to try and stop you. One important skill for winning lane is realizing that you don't necessarily have to gain gold leads to win the lane. Going even and drawing a lot of pressure is just as much of a win. While enemy players are trying to gank you, your teammates are creating leads of their own. Make sure not to die when your enemies come to try and gank you, and by successfully baiting and avoiding those ganks, you effectively waste their time and play a subtle but significant role in your team's victory. That concludes this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and again, you can check out our YouTube channel or ProGuides.com for more content like this. On ProGuides.com, we've partnered with pro players to create courses designed to take your game to the next level, so don't miss out and click the link below. That's it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Good luck in your next few games, and we'll see you on the Rift.